Hey VC, how's it going? Erik the Viking back here again. It's been a while. I was supposed to be moving house the last 2 weeks. Still hasn't happened yet, as you can see. I'm still here. Place is a mess. There's been a lot going on. It doesn't look like I've packed much, but there are boxes everywhere. I was saving the records till last. So all that's been going on. So I just thought I might as well post a few more videos before I move, because I should be moving at the end of this week, fingers crossed. So I thought I'd talk to you guys about post-punk and no wave. Big fan of this kind of stuff, English and American. I've got a lot to go through, so I'm going to try and fit it all into one video, which will be interesting. We'll start with the American stuff. It's funny, the whole post-punk thing, because it's sort of hard defining it, as in some people would say some things were post-punk, some people say they're not. So this is what I think is post-punk. It's just my opinion. So I'm going to start with one of the earliest examples. I mean, technically this is pre-punk, because it was recorded in about 75, but it sort of falls in with the rest of those kind of albums from that period. Correct me if I'm wrong, that's just what I think. And it's Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers, of course, the first album, the only one you need in my opinion, with Jerry Harrison before he joined Talking Heads, and it's got the brilliant Road Run on it and Pablo Picasso. Just a great sleeve as well, and produced by John Cale. And this is the English pressing on Berserkly, the first English pressing. I think the first American pressing was Berserkly, but they were originally called Home of the Hits. But this is how it first came out over here, pressed by Decca. It's manufactured by Decca over here. So, nice one to have if you can find it. Another early example for me is Patti Smith, Horses, great album. It's funny actually, I was quite late getting into Patti Smith, but this album is seminal, it's just brilliant. And this is again a nice English pressing on Arista. It's a great album. I've also got Easter, which I haven't listened to as much, but it's still good. These are the only two Patti Smith albums I have. They're very hard to find now, and this is got the lyric in it too. Good stuff. And now sort of going into no wave territory at the same time. I've had this in one of my previous videos because I picked it up recently. This is one of the bands that sort of started that whole thing. I mean, this band isn't to everyone's taste, but I love this sort of stuff. It's minimal, synths, drum machines, very simple vocals, the legendary Suicide. They only made 2 proper albums, and this is the only one I have, the first one, which is just excellent. What can I say? It's just a great album. So it's nice to have an original English Red Star pressing of this, which was manufactured by Bronze Records. You can see that, actually EMI really, but you've got the Bronze logo there as well, so that's nice. Next, another one of my favourite bands now, the impossible to categorise, Pere Ubu. Also, one of the more mysterious bands, I think, because there's some stuff written about them, but I don't know if I'm looking in the wrong places here, but I can't find any books about these guys, and there's not much footage on YouTube, so they're quite sort of shrouded in mystery really. And obviously David Thomas is still doing stuff now, but the original lineup has long since disbanded. Anyway, I'm going to try and be relatively quick here. This is just a 12-inch that came out in 78 on Radar Scope in England. Just a compilation of some of their early singles, but from 75, 76 and 77, and that's the original sleeves. These were all released on a private label, very rare. I don't have those, but it's on the lovely Radar Scope label. Very short-lived label, but they put out some great stuff. They reissued the Red Crayola and 13th Floor Elevators albums. These guys obviously knew what they were doing. Yeah, so that's cool. And then of course the legendary Modern Dance, which is a great introduction, if any, to Pere Ubu. What can I say? This is just incredible and bizarre. This is the very rare first English pressing on Mercury, which I only discovered existed when I saw this come up for sale. There's not many of them around, but this is an immaculate copy. absolutely mint. And it's got the blank logo, which was the original American label, and it's in a nice laminated sleeve. If you can find one of these, I'd recommend it. Not just the album, but that pressing as well. And also, which is nearly just as good as, I've got the second album, Dub Housing, which is just as bizarre, which was on Chrysalis. This is the English pressing too, from '78. I mean, this is just incredible. I mean, the band were just miles ahead of anyone else, and they still don't sound like anything now. I mean, you can hear sort of Beefheart influences in the kind of guitar riffs they got going on, but his vocals are just otherworldly. They're incredible. It took me a long time to find one of those. And this one is, I've seen this even less than the others. This is the third album, New Picnic Time. Just as bizarre, even more less structured than the other two albums. I'm only showing these 3 albums here because they really fall into that sort of post-punk, no-wave thing. I've got the other albums, but it gets a bit more into new wave, I'd say anyway. Again, this is an English pressing on Chrysalis. Now, continuing the no-wave theme, we've got the album that kind of opened everyone's ears and eyes to what was happening at the time, No New York. Proud to say I have an original American copy of this on Antilles. Not a perfect copy, but it's good enough for me for now anyway. And this has got the lovely Polaroid mug shots of, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you all know the story. Brian Eno put this album together, and there's 4 tracks by the Contortions, 4 by Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, 4 by Mars, who I absolutely love, and 4 by DNA. Mars were just insane. They only recorded about 10 tracks, I think, and they did less gigs than that, but they were just one of these sort of bizarre bands. An interesting thing, this is quite tatty, but if you can see, the lyrics were printed on the inside of the inner sleeve, which is very unusual. And like I say, this is the album that's sort of got no wave on the map, as it were. I'll try and get this back in the sleeve now. Yeah, this is a good introduction. I mean, if you've got, if you're into avant-garde, there's a lot of free jazz influences in this. It's minimalist, it's experimental, it's on the edge, it is out there, way out there. I'm not a massive fan of Teenage Jesus though, can't really seem to get into that. I'm not sure if it's Lydia Lunch's vocals, but the Contortions, well yeah, we'll go on to that now. We've got the first Contortions album by here, this is the first UK pressing on the Z label. Great label. This album is just insane. I first heard the Contortions, I heard the track Contort Yourself, of course, which is just insane. And look at that beautiful label there. Pressed by Ireland, UK pressing. And it's funny, when I picked this up, and the one I'm going to show you next, for £1 each, on eBay, some years ago, but since then, they have just shot up in price. People are going mad for this stuff now. You could get them quite cheap at one time, but now, whenever I've seen them, they're about £40–50 each. I mean, again, you can get lucky, but people just go crazy for this stuff. Which brings me on to, technically, the second Contortions album. It was issued under the name of James White and the Blacks. How cool is that cover? This is Off-White, which has got the original 12-inch version of Contort Yourself on it, which is a bit better than the other one on the By album. And you've got pictures of the band. Pat Place, who for years I thought was a guy, sorry Pat. The beautiful Randy Marlowe, no idea who she was, she just does vocals on one track. This is a great album, and one side has got vocals by all these people here, different ones on each track. That is actually Lydia Lunch there, under the name Stella Rico. And the B-side are just these dirty, messed up, funky instrumentals. Again, that's on the Z label. Both those albums are amazing. Again, I kind of put this in the post-punk thing, but these were out the same in '77, so it's when punk was kicking off. But they're not really punk. But I thought I'd give these a mention because I love Iggy and I love the Stooges. Of course, this is The Idiot, produced by Bowie. My favourite Iggy album, solo album, that doesn't include the Stooges stuff, because if you listen to this sounds like some of the sort of post-punk stuff. This is an immaculate English RCA pressing. which I'm very proud to have because it's just hard to find one of these now. This is just brilliant. You've got Sister Midnight on there, Night Clubbing, Fun Time Baby, China Girl, the original and better China Girl, but I do like Bowie's version. Dum Dum Boys, brilliant. Also got a nice English Lust for Life, which I've included here because it's the same year, same lineup, completely different sounding album. There's a couple of weak tracks on here, but of course you've got Lust for Life 16 and The Passenger on it, which is all you need really. So I thought it was worth a mention. What you hear playing in the background now, Marquee Moon by Television, another great band. Actually, I've just picked up a copy of their first single, Little Johnny Jewel, which I've got coming in the post, so that's why I'm not showing it here. Great band, and just a great album. They were just, you know, they're part of the post-punk scene, but they were just doing their own thing, really. Very different. Very good. And I've got their second album, Adventure, which I can't get massively into, but it's worth it just for the track Foxhole because it's brilliant. And this is a lovely, it's got the insert, and it's a lovely English pressing on Derek, if you're watching, red vinyl. I know how Derek likes his red vinyl, his coloured vinyl. Beautiful. So that's that. Bit of Television. Okay, I'll put this away, 1 second. And of course, I'm supposed wondering why I haven't mentioned them yet. Talking Heads. How can I not mention Talking Heads? I love Talking Heads, another one of my top bands. This is the first English pressing of the first album, very hard to find. Didn't sell much on release originally. This has got Psycho Killer on it, Don't Worry About the Government, No Compassion, great stuff. And the equally good second album, More Songs About Buildings and Food. And you know this cover was actually made of loads of individual Polaroid shots of them put together, which I think is incredible in itself. And this is when Eno started getting involved and things started getting a bit more interesting production wise. My favourite Talking Heads album, Fear of Music, and you can see the embossed sleeve there. This is the English pressing. This album this is one of those albums that my dad used to play a lot when I was a kid. I still remember hearing Cities and just being blown away. His vocals are just insane. Great album. And my second favourite Talking Heads album, Remain in Light, which is just brilliant. And I know Big Star 1000, if you're watching, I know you were going on about this in your post-punk video too. I love this album too, man. This is just great. And this has got the lyrics and everything too. I've got all the other Talking Heads albums, but I think only these four should fit in this video really. Which brings me to Tom Tom Club, which is the excellent album that Tina Weymouth and Chris Frantz put together when they were sort of having a little break. I think 81. Funky as hell, man. Just a great album, and it's got, you know, Genius of Love on it, Wordy Rapping Hood. It's just a sick album. Love it. Very hard to find as a first English pressing now. People are going crazy for this album now. Just brilliant. And the only other American one I've got to show here is more recent group. I think this came out in about 2001, and an all-girl group. I don't know if you guys have heard of these, Razor Rata. Very out there, sort of Slits influenced, but a bit more avant-garde, noisy post-punk. These are categorised as post-punk, which is why I'm showing it. You can still get these now. I picked this up brand new not long ago. It's on 180 gram vinyl. I first heard these on a Mojo magazine compilation CD, the track Tongue Tied. Very Beefheart influence. Okay, so I think we're doing alright. I think I shall continue. Now onto the English stuff. Of course, we've got Public Image. I love Public Image. I think they were better than the Pistols myself, a lot more interesting. This is the first album, of course. It's got the inner sleeve as well. First pressing on Virgin. Great stuff. Brilliant. And of course, I'm proud to say I have an original metal box. Now, as you can see, it's quite tarnished. All the ones I've seen, it's still got the sticker though, the catalogue number there. All the copies of these I've seen have been like this, but The vinyls are mint. It's very hard to find, and it's also got the track listing insert and the paper dividers. The records are sort of all sit underneath here. Great packaging idea. It must have cost a fortune. Just shows why Virgin Records were the coolest label out there at the time, because they would do stuff like this. And of course, this album's just insane. It's dub. It's everything. It's just. And hearing these on the original vinyl, which were pressed at 45 RPM, so it's like you've got 3 12-inch singles basically in there. It's just phenomenal. The sound is incredible. Joel Wobble's bass, I mean, if you have it too loud, you're going to blow your speakers. It's brilliant. Okay. Another great post-punk album, Gang of Four's Entertainment. I think they only made 2. This is the only one I have. Again, I mean, people will just go mad for this stuff now. They're so hard to find. And this is the first pressing on EMI. Brilliant album. Another one that I got into quite late, but once I heard it, I loved it. It's just great stuff. Of course, the gorgeous Slits with the sadly recently departed Ari Up, who's there. That is Viv Albertine, who is beautiful, and that is, oh, let's forget that one's name. That's terrible, isn't it? No, it's gone. I've forgotten her name, but anyway. This is cut by the Slits, first English pressing on EMI. Ireland, with the laminated sleeve. Brilliant album, of course, just absolute classic. Just blew my mind when I first heard it. This is another one that I had on the one of my recent purchases videos. The second album, which was just called The Slits, on the Y label, which was manufactured by Rough Trade. It was actually issued in this sleeve, so that's why some people call it the bootleg album, because it's all demo recordings, really rough quality, quite hard work. And you can see that at this time they were hanging around with the pop group, and you can see their influence on this album. Nice album. And of course I have Return of the Giant Slits, the last album, from 81 on CBS. And it's got the inner sleeve, and it's got the single as well, which is got an American radio interview on one side and a dub on the other, a dub of one of the tracks. That's great stuff, man. And these albums, again, just so hard to find now. So I mentioned them earlier, a minute ago. It's one of my absolute favourite post-punk bands, the Pop Group. These guys are just phenomenal. Completely blew me away when I first heard them. The first track I ever heard was We're All Prostitutes, which was one of their singles. Sorry, I do that without even realising sometimes. Just a great band, and I was sad that they reformed and had a tour recently, and I couldn't get tickets. But I should have been in there quicker. But yeah, this is the first pressing on Radarscope. It's that label again. Produced by Dennis Bovell, who did the Slits cut as well, and it's got the locked groove on the B side as well, and it's got the poster, which I'm not going to fold out because it's massive, but it's in there. It's all there. It's huge. I often have the problem that with these posters, if I unfold them, I can't fold them back the right way, and the thought of damaging them scares the hell out of me. I actually got a close friend of mine, Henry, his name is. His dad has got an insane record collection, and they're just sitting there. Anyway, I looked through his records, and he had this, and I was like, man, I love the Pop Group. You know, this is so hard to find. He gave it to me. He didn't give it to me then. About a week later, I met up with Henry, and Henry said, "Oh, my dad said this is for you," and he wouldn't accept any money, and I still can't get over that. So I think I made him some CDs. I know it's no compensation. I mean, this is worth a lot of money. He knew it, but I think he'd rather I'd play it. He knew I'd play it, I suppose, and I do play it. So thank you, Henry's dad. I forgot his name. Elbert. Thank you, Elbert. I doubt you're watching. This is the Pop Group's second and rarer album, in my opinion. For How Much Longer Do We Tolerate Mass Murder? This took me a very long time to find. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the inserts with this. This actually did come with a load of posters, I believe. This is a lot more, production-wise, it's just low budget as hell, but it's brilliant. And the Last Poets are actually on one track. And again, this is on the Y Rough Trade subsidiary label. brilliant. And these guys were just miles ahead of anyone else. There's free jazz in here, there's funk, there's abstract dub. Let me stick some on, as soon as I'm talking about them. Put Blind Faith on, off this album. So that's that. And after that, of course, they broke up. That was 1980, and a couple of them formed Rip, Rig and Panic. I can't remember which members were in this, and of course Nana Cherry was in the Rip, Rig and Panic. These guys were scary as hell, man. They were on the Young Ones on one of the episodes. Another release on Virgin, which was pressed on 45 RPM. Harry Up is on this as well. This album's just free and crazy stuff. This is their first album, God, from 1981. I haven't got their other two albums. They're very hard to find. So if anyone's got them, hit me up. It's another interesting one, which I picked up because I thought it looked interesting, and it's a label that often is interesting, Armageddon. Pylon, anyone heard of these guys? I think this was their only release, a 10-inch EP, but it's a nice little post-punk release. There's not much information here at all, it's just literally a 10-inch EP on the Armageddon label, 1980. I mean, I got this in a charity shop for 50p, so it was a good buy. It's got Wickham Radio written on there. It was obviously ex-radio stock, so that was cool. Again, another band that some people might not agree belong in this category, but I'll put them in there anyway. The Cure, another one of my favourite bands. Love The Cure. I'm just showing the first few albums here because they fit more into this video. Of course, this is Three Imaginary Boys, their debut. This doesn't have the poster or anything, but it's got the inner sleeve. What is interesting about this, I don't know if any of you guys can help me out here, is that there is no track listing on here at all. Not even on the label. If you look, it's got the numbers, but a symbol for each track instead. So I don't know if maybe the tracks were listed on the postcard that came with it, or the poster, I don't know, but there you go. A very minimal album, nothing like their later stuff, but really good. But the cover of Foxy Lady on here is awful. You can see why they removed it from later pressings. Sorry guys, it's bad. Second album, 17 Seconds. Again, classic, getting more into the sort of gothic sound that they would later pioneer. This has got a forest on it, and Play for Today and Primary. No, sorry, it hasn't got Primary on it. Good album, not to everyone's taste, very minimal still, you know, quite simple stuff going on. This has got Primary on it. This is Faith, the third album, also very good. Yeah, great stuff. And again, people go mad for Cure stuff now. You just don't see them much, really. The fourth album, which is my brother Coke's, one of his favourite albums of all time, I think. Pornography, which this album's scary as hell, man. It is so dark. You can see where all those sort of goth artists got their sound. It's from this album. And this is 1982. The only single off it was The Hanging Garden. But the track Pornography scares the hell out of me. I can't listen to it sometimes. It's all sort of backwards voices from they'd picked up from TVs and shit. With this just gloomy music going on in the background. It's great. But it is scary. Yeah. That's that. And another one. This is their only album I have. Their first album is definitely in the punk category, but I put this album in the post-punk category. And this is one of my favourite albums. This is The Undertones. No, I do have more of their albums. They're over there in the newer stuff. I've got Hypnotised and Sin of Pride as well, but I'll just show this one because the video is getting quite long. This is Positive Touch, my favourite Undertones album. And look, you can see the lovely embossed... Hang on. You see that? Embossed sleeve? You can't, really. There you go. This album's great, and it's really underrated, and I think it's currently out of print as well, and it's not that hard to get. So guys, if you don't have this album, it's got the singles It's Gonna Happen on it, Positive Touch, When Saturday Comes, but there's better tracks. There's other great tracks lurking in this album. get this seriously. I've played this album to death over the years. One more album now. These were German, and they do often get mentioned in the sort of post-punk thing. Worst cover ever. This is Deutsche Amerikanische Freundschaft, or DAF. Got a German friend who told me that they weren't big over there at all, and their name means German American Friendship. They were a lot bigger over here. I mean, their cover is very dated, but this is really good early sort of synth pop. Not even pop, but it's just weird. It's got a very industrial sound, very simple. And there's tracks like Muscle, where the lyrics are literally him saying muscle over and over again over this sort of industrial beat. If you like this sort of stuff, man, get it. That's a good album. I actually bought it because I'd heard of them, but I wasn't expecting to like it, but I did. Before I finish, I know it's getting a bit long. I've got a couple of singles as well, the ones that I could find. I got the first Public Image single in the newspaper sleeve. This is just brilliant in this sort of spoof newspaper sleeve, which is getting a bit tatty, but it's hard to find it not being tatty. Very hard to find now. A lot of these post-punk singles are, unfortunately. One second, I'll put it back in here now. Actually, I'll do that later. Same time. I have got We're All Prostitutes by the pop group on Rough Trade. The first track of theirs I ever heard, with the lyrics on the front and pictures on the back. And the B-side was called Amnesty International Report of British Army Torture of Irish Prisoners. These guys were very political. And this is a great track to check out if you haven't heard the pop group before. I'll tell you what, I will put it on now quickly. This was the first track I heard. Bizarre. Great. Another pop group single. I don't have the first one, which I was just playing in the background there. I don't have one of those. It's the only pop group thing I need. This is Where There's a Will, and this has got the slits on the B-side. In the beginning there was rhythm. This is actually the better track out of the two, I think. And again, this was on the Y label. This one's not too hard to find. I picked this up fairly cheap. But Prostitutes, I mean, you can't get that now. You can try it. Another great post-punk band, Essential Logic, with Laura Logic, of course, who was in X-Ray Specs. Fanfare in the Garden. This is the only Essential Logic release I have, but this is a nice little funky track on Rough Trade, of course. Rough Trade were really leading this sort of thing back then. They were in charge of the scene, man. Another band that doesn't get mentioned that often. No idea why. Because they're very good. It's Family Fodder. You guys heard of them? They were a sort of husband and wife duo, I think. The guy did all the instruments and she did most of the vocals. He did some vocals as well. He called himself a really weird name, which I can't remember now. This is Warm with Desire on the B-side on the tiny Fresh label. You just don't see these. But my favourite Family Fodder single is this one, Debbie Harry. This is just great, a really sort of jolty track, very poppy sounding, and again it's on the Fresh label, 1980, so it's pretty early. This has proven to be my longest video so far. Two more to go. The Fish Needs a Bike by Blurt, not Blur, on Armageddon again. This blew my mind when it first heard it. 1981. Strange. Don't know why this was released as a single, but it was, and I'm glad it was because it's great. And last but not least, my only, I think, American post-punk single is the classic Too Many Creeps by Bush Tetras, which had Pat Place from the Contortions on it. This is from 1980 on the legendary 99 label. This is the only thing I have on that label. It's so rare. I don't have any ESG or nothing. They're just so rare. But there you go, get a look at that. So if anyone has any stuff on 99, I'd be interested. I'm after anything, Glen Branca, you name it. Interested in all that stuff. Anyway, BC, thanks for watching. It's nice to see that I'm sort of starting to get more people watching my videos. I guess it just takes time. I was at first thinking, why is nobody watching my videos? But you know, it's all about patience. And it's great that you're all, it's just great vibe, I'm loving it. So yeah, I think I'm going to post one more video tonight, and then you might not hear from me for a while, because I will hopefully be moving next weekend. So yeah, speak soon, peace.